Hi, welcome to Take Charge of Your Health. I'm Dr. Melissa Balizan, and today we're going to learn simple steps you can take to control your physical and mental health. And I have with me my friend Kris Gieske, who is owner of KG Max Fitness and who helps people with strength, rehab, and movement performance. So welcome, Kris. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So let's talk about that. Let's kind of break that down a little bit, because that's a lot. Strength, rehab, and movement performance. So tell us first how you got started into that.
Okay, so first getting into that, I was in the military, in the Army, and eventually, in the Army, does what the Army does, you get broken, right? So then I started working with a nonprofit organization called LifeQuest Transitions. And they introduced me to adaptive physical training and looking at the body not only through a biomechanical lens, but also a neurological lens as well. And through doing a lot of that training, I made myself, feel a lot better, move a lot better, and get back into things like I like to do, like lifting weights and feeling good, as most people like to feel, right? Like to feel good. And from there, I started actually working with the organization, helping other wounded veterans get better. And then from there, getting out of the military, not really knowing what I really wanted to do, I was like, well, maybe this could be a catalyst for something. So then I went to National Personal Training Institute, and I was able to take the Z Health seminars for free, which are some of the neurological stuff I do with people, because I was working with wounded warriors at the time. And then just kept going, got my strength conditioning certification, and keep learning more and more about the nervous system, which is in a rabbit hole of itself.
Yes, it is. And such wonderful work you're doing. And thank you for your service. And thank you for working with our veterans, because that's a need. That's a need that I think a lot of people don't realize, is that we need to be able to support these wounded soldiers that maybe they come back, with not necessarily missing pieces, but they're wounded because they've gotten broken some way along the way. And I love that you work in a neurological piece. So let's talk about how that works into your strength and conditioning, and how you're different as a strength and conditioning coach that way.
Okay, so I look at things like through a neural lens as well as a biomechanical lens. So what does that mean? It means I kind of look at neurological deficits, right? And people always ask, well, what is that? Well, it can come out of several different ways. So proprioception is one thing I look at a lot of, is coordination of movement, how well you can move your body through a coordinated system. Can you take your arm and do a circle like this without it being jerky and all over the place? Or can you move it in a smooth, pattern? If you can't, that can be an issue. That can be a neurological deficit, because your brain has a map of your body, right? It's called proprioception. So if I look one way, I can tell what my arm's doing on this side, right? I can tell I'm counting the number 5 on one hand. And there's a lot of systems that play into that. So basically the GPS of your body, of that proprioceptive system, is your vision, your vestibular, and also a lot of mechanoreceptors, that play into that. And what I do is I look at it and go, okay, how well is your visual system working? How well is your balance system working, or your vestibular system? And how well can you move your body through space and time? And if you can't, we have to look at that, because if those things aren't functioning right, all of a sudden it can start to be like a governor. Your nervous system can be a governor and start shutting muscle systems down.
Yeah, and that's, I love that concept, because what I do and what you do, I think we look at the whole picture, and that neurological component affects how, our strength and conditioning is done. So I love that you're looking more than just at a particular muscle, and you're looking at all these other things. So tell me a little bit about, a lot of us, we go and we work out and we think, we're doing something great for our health. However, what might we be doing that's actually not good for us, or we might actually be hurting ourselves in the process?
So one thing that I notice a lot of people train dysfunction and not realize that they're doing it. They could have a faulty movement pattern and start training it even further, such as a lot of people have this anterior posture, right? They have the routed shoulders, rounded head here and like this. And then they'll go into the gym and they'll start doing a lot of bench pressing, right? And then they're just reinforcing that posture deviation versus working other muscles that can actually help create a nice tall posture and things like that. So getting somebody that can really watch your movement and watch how you move as a person and see um, past injury, past things that have happened to you, on what exercises might be beneficial and what might not be so beneficial, which is a big takeaway I use here in the office. So I'll watch somebody walk. I'll watch how they walk in, and I'll start working with them. And I'll be like, okay, walk down and back real quick. And I'll watch how their body changes. If they're not moving as well, so the next time after I do an exercise, I'm like, maybe we need to modify that and change it a little bit because for whatever reason, your nervous system didn't like that motion, or you're a little bit, something just wasn't feeding in right to that movement map in your brain. So then I look and I'm like, okay, let's try this drill. And all of a sudden I'll do a drill, have them walk again. And all of a sudden they could be walking, with a nice gait again. And then it's like, okay, let's try this exercise. Then they'll do that exercise. I'll watch them walk again. Okay, now you're moving functionally. And it takes, somebody who really watches, how you can move and how you're supposed to move versus just going, okay, let's do a set of squats. And, a trainer will sit there and be like, okay, we're going to do 3 sets of squats today. And they'll watch the first set, and then you'll see knees and hips and shoulders doing all these funky things. And they'll be like, okay, let's do 2 more sets without stopping, reassessing, looking for those deviations and how I can help those deviations before we go back into it. And that's what I get a lot of when people, come in and they're like, yeah, I've got injured in the gym. And that's how most of my conversations start out, is on this table behind me. They'll have an ice pack on their back. And I'm like, let's have the conversation on that, how that happened, right? And how I can help and how I can make you perform better as a functional unit, right? Because instead of looking at just one piece and going, well, I have back pain, it's like, well, let's look at that a little bit deeper and go, well, why do you have that back pain? What biomechanically is feeding that back pain, and what neurological ways are we feeding that back?
And I love that, because that is so true. We think that, we're doing it right. We're just repetition, where, if we're not doing it in the proper form, we can actually be creating damage, and which could lead to a chronic condition. It could lead to an injury. And so I love that you're taking the time and going through and helping your clients do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it sure does, make a difference. And that's the thing, having somebody on your side that's, rooting for you during doing this, activity that's great for your health, but making sure that you're not injuring yourself or setting yourself up for future challenges. So I love
a great quote that I got from one of my seminars, which was awesome. It says, exercise isn't so easy you can't mess it up. And I was like, that is so true, because people's GPS, man, I mean, even if your vestibular system gets jacked up a little bit, you may think you're doing the right thing and be completely off.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's yes. So let's talk about a little bit about, because you so many people have come in, I know that you work with, that have had maybe a head injury. So how can that head injury actually lead to causing other problems, within our system, within our body? How does that work, and how do you do something special for that person?
So a real funny story that I have, that I had a lady that came in, and she came at me with a lot of elbow pain and forearm pain. And with talking with her for a while, I was asking her about her past injuries and things like that. And I found out that she's been in 3 car wrecks. And I asked if she's ever been diagnosed with, any concussions or anything like that. She's like, no, never been diagnosed with any of that stuff. So this is why I go in a little bit further in my assessments, right? I go over, past history, injury history, anything hurts, what's hurting, how's it going, and then also balance is another huge one I assess. So I went to go assess her balance, and I have her stand up, and, I get braced, front and back, and I go, okay, close your eyes, and she almost fell completely over. And I was like, let's work with your balance system a little bit first before we start actually giving you stretches and things to do. And so I would just grab her arm a little bit, just enough to be like, how painful is that? And she'd be like, yeah, that's pretty painful. Tender to the touch. Okay. So I started just doing some balance drills with her, some head and visual movements. And everything I do in a pain-free range of motion, and I make sure that there's no threat happening. So if I do a range of motion with her head and all of a sudden she starts to get nauseous, I'm like, let's not go that far yet. Let's train that pain-free range, do real simple steps, and then eventually we can get to the bigger picture. By just doing a little bit of work with her visual and vestibular system, I grabbed her arm again. She said, my pain's gone, right? So it was to deal with that whole GPS system not functioning correctly. Then when your map clarity from your nervous system gets messed up, your brain decides to do an output. And it's going to do one of three things with faulty input. It's going to either send a lack of flexibility, lack of strength, and if there's enough going up there called nociceptors, which are actually threat receptors going to your brain, it's going to say make something hurt. And that was one thing that decided to make hurt because she was a cleaner. So she used her arms a lot, right? So that became threatening motion for her because everything else wasn't working very well. So then after doing that, I also gave her some stretches to do, which also helped quite a bit. But, you know, the main piece was diving a little bit deeper into that onion versus just looking at the surface and going, okay, that's what's wrong, right? I'm just going to work on that area and we're going to make that area better. Now you got to look a little bit deeper than that a lot of times.
I love that. And I love that you take the time to do that and really give value to your client, because, you know, her being able to release that elbow pain by you going in deeper, that was just amazing. I mean, that's just one example of great things that you have done with your clients. So I love that. I love that about what you do. And it is, you know, our body is, it all works together. You know, there's different pieces of it. We have all these different systems, but if they don't work functioning together, one piece might be out, and it sends that signal to, like, you know, your elbow, hey, this isn't working right. But what it is, it's a malfunction, so to speak. You know, it's like, you know, it's like, okay, we need to figure out, go back and find the root cause of the problem. And I love that, because that's the approach. You know, I think that's why you and I connected so well, is because the approach of looking at that whole picture and actually, you know, peeling back that onion and figuring out, okay, what really is the underlying cause of this, you know, immediate thing that's causing the pain or the issue or whatever like that. So,
and a lot with, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay, go ahead.
And a lot with athletes and things like that, when they get a lot of head injuries, all of a sudden they'll notice after a head injury, their ACL tears can go up, because a lot of times their movement mechanics get a little off, and then also visually they're not looking before they step. And that can also start to create a lot of that torque in the knee and things like that. And all of a sudden they're like, I injured my knee. And it's like, you did, but why, right?
Exactly. I love that. And that actually leads me right into my next question, because I think we've talked before, and you tell me that everybody's an athlete. So why do you say that? I mean, why am I an athlete? I mean, I don't run, I don't jump, I don't, you know, I don't play football or things like that. So tell me the core behind that. Why do you think everybody is an athlete?
Everybody's an athlete because everybody needs a certain amount of strength and coordination in their muscles throughout the day to be able to get through pain-free. And just like an athlete, if you're to perform at your best at your job, you need to perform, you know, at your best and pain-free, just like the professional athlete. You know, people get this disconnect as, oh, they're an athlete, so they have time to train and all this stuff. And it's like, well, what about yourself? Don't you look at yourself as, you know, a little bit higher and be like, man, I really need to get some more function in my life, coordination, and maybe be a little bit stronger so I can actually play with my kids, or I can, you know, get through my job throughout the day and then not be fatigued at the end of the day to spend time with the family.
Absolutely. I love that. And that, you know, that's so true. We need to think of ourselves as high functioning and being able to move and do things. And so let's talk a little bit about movement.
Okay.
Because, you know, strength and conditioning and movement. So let's talk about, give us an example of, you know, most of us, you know, we sit over, hunched over at our computers, you know, and so you can help us, you know, with getting when we're going into the gym and doing things like that. But let's talk about just maybe some simple movement things that we could do today, but, to kind of get ourselves from sitting all the time.
So one thing that I've got, I think it's one of my offers on there for my YouTube video, is a movement called the shin box, which helps, of course, stretch this with a little bit of thoracic rotation, kind of reinforce this upward posture. And then also just setting your timer, every 20 minutes, getting away from the computer a little bit. Another one, eye strain can come with a computer and things like that, looking at the computer all day. So a lot of my, what I call them my keyboard athletes, is I'll give them a soft gaze drill. And I've noticed this helps a lot of people with migraines and things like that who, I work with, and they're like, man, after a while it starts to hurt. And I'm like, well, maybe it's an eye issue. So a soft gaze would be, you take your thumb or your finger and you don't really directly stare at it, but you have in your vision, but you also see everything else around you in your periphery. And it just kind of helps relax your eyes. And then you can go back to doing it. So like every 20 minutes, do something, stand up, walk around, do the shin box drill, do a soft gaze, and that's going to kind of help reset you a little bit.
I love it. Thank you. And that is, those are several simple things you can pick up, simple steps you can pick up today. So hopefully one of those nuggets is good. And then, so let's talk about recovery methods. So a lot of recovery methods, we're told to, we go in and exercise. And if we have a coach helping us, which we're athletes, so everybody should have a coach helping us get through this. Tell us about a recovery method that often gets overlooked and why it's beneficial to actually do this.
Well, there's two recovery methods that I think are vastly overlooked, and they're the first thing to go out of everybody's program, and that is the cool down, right, and sleep. And those two work in massive conjunction with each other, right, because you get some of these people who are, high, level workers and things like that. And they get up in the morning and they go and they rush in the gym, they work out a lot, and they go right to their job where they take phone calls and they're stressed out and they go do all this stuff all day. And then by the time they get ready to go to sleep, they can't shut off and they are, awake all the time. So one method in my cool down that I have everybody do is I get them to learn how to breathe and relax for about 5 minutes before they leave the gym, because that's balancing that parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system out a little bit. Because neither one's bad, but if one gets on more than the other, then that can cause a little bit of dysfunction, right? Because they're both on, but there's always one that's a little bit higher than the other, right? So it's kind of a balancing act. So if I, go in the gym, I take my caffeine, and I go to work, all this stuff, your heart rate elevates and your brain never really gets a chance to come down and relax. So one thing I'll have is I'll have people put their hand on their chest, one on their belly, I'll have them lay on their back, and I'll have them breathe deep, and I'll watch which hand rises. And for a lot of people, they can be this hand, this top hand. And what I try to retrain them to do is to push their belly out and breathe in that diaphragm. And I'll have them just relax on the floor for about 5-10 minutes, eyes closed after a hard workout. And then be like, okay, how do you feel? They're like, I feel a lot better. And I'm like, good. Now go home, tell me how you slept. And they're like, God, I slept really good. And another thing people can do is really put a value on your sleep, because that's huge for your nervous system. And, they've done studies with eye movements and things like that, to where when you get fatigued, the eyes are the first to go. And when the eyes start to shut down, the governor on your nervous system starts to shut everything else down. Another funny story I had one guy who was doing he does a MedX program here, and it helps strengthen spinal muscles. Mm-hmm. And we went to his same weights that he's been using, and he got like half the reps. And I said, okay, what's going on? Did you sleep well last night? He goes, no, I got like 3 hours of sleep last night. And I was like, okay, we're gonna call this one. You're gonna go home. You're gonna get 8 hours of sleep. Come back. So he got another 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep. Came back and blew his 15, no problem. He's like, I had no idea that sleep impacted my movement so much. And I'm like, absolutely. People like to step over dollars to pick up dimes. They get that 5 a.m. workout in, but they went to sleep at 10, 11 at night, getting 5 hours sleep, going to work out. It's like, set your alarm to go to bed. Hour before you go to bed, put your phone away, right? Plug it in the other room. Buy an alarm clock. They're not that expensive to help wake you up, right?
Right.
Because people will sit there and they'll get that blue light in their face again, which is helping wake up everything, wake the body up, because that's what blue light does when the sun wakes up. That's how we used to wake up for years and years and years, right? When the sun came up, so that blue light stimulates you. So that's why you end up on YouTube at 3 in the morning looking at dog videos, because your brain can't shut off.
That is so true, and it is so important to get a good night's rest, and because that's when your body recharges. That's when it does its normal process of what it's supposed to go through. And if you're impeding that process, and then you have something else compiled on top of that, a condition or something, and you're definitely not getting your rest, definitely a recovery method we all need to improve. And I love that. Put the blue light away. I do that. My phone is in a totally different room. It has been for years. And if people know that if they want to call me, they call me after, a certain amount of time in the morning, and they had better call me before 9 o'clock at night, because the phone's away. I turn it off, and I've had the same alarm clock since I was a teenager. So it's like, it's a different thing. And I love that, you're just reminding us of those simple things. And that's the key. Is a lot of this is not difficult, but it's, the breathing techniques and the remember to sleep. And it's these things that we've just pushed out of our mind because there's so much going on.
Yeah. It's everybody gets so busy and they get wrapped up, and they worry about other people all the time. And they're like, well, if I don't have my phone, then this person might call. I'm like, okay, we need to step back a little bit and take care of ourselves a little bit, right? Because when you're in an airplane and that bag comes down, what do they say to do? Put your bag on first, and then you can help others, right? If you don't take care of yourself, your ability to take out other people is going to be very, very, horribly impacted.
Exactly. And I love that analogy. I use that too. And trying to actually putting the message out there. I am putting the message out there. You're putting the message out there. We need to take care of ourselves so that we can better take care of others. And that's the key is we've got to, remember, hey, take care of this body, take care of, and it's not saying that you were taking time to be selfish. We're taking time so that we can give more, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be able to have that time and fun and play with our kids or our grandkids or go out for a walk or a hike or whatever, because we've depleted all of our, our resources inside of us. So you
have to have that little bit of selfishness, or else you can't do those things and help other people as much as you want to.
Exactly. So before we talk about your other special offer that you have, is there anything else that you'd like to mention?
Oh man. Anything else that I would like to mention? Just work on breathing, get somebody to watch you move, get your sleep, and take care of yourself a little bit more.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. And Kris has a special offer for us. So we talked about the Shin Box earlier, but he also has another special offer that he's going to give for you watching today. And there'll be a link up here, Take Charge of Your Health /Kris. It'll be at the top or the bottom. I can't figure out which way it's going to show up. It's going to be one of those directions, but there'll be a link. And then what'll happen is he has this special offer for you. So tell us a little bit about this offer that you have for us. You're going to give us a little discount on one of your consults.
Yeah. So it's my KG Quick Start program. So basically what you're going to get is you're going to get that health history. You're going to get the movement assessment. You're going to get the posture screening. You're going to get, balance assessment, movement assessment, and then 2 sessions with me personally for all that for $197, which in most cases it's about $260, $270. So
that's amazing. That's a fabulous offer. That's a fabulous offer, Kris. Thank you so much for your generosity for that.
You're welcome.
So, and thank you so much for being on with me today. I really appreciate it.
It's fun. I geek out. I like to talk about it.
That's awesome. And thanks for everybody for watching. Take charge of your health. Hopefully you've been able to pick up a simple step you can do today to take control of your physical and mental health. Stay tuned for more exciting videos coming. Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me on, Doctor.